Let's be honest, most of us have a crawl space, and most of us do our best to completely ignore it. You know, that dark, kind of spooky area under our homes? But what's happening down there with moisture can quietly wreak havoc on your entire house, from the air you breathe to its actual structural integrity. So today, we're going to demystify the whole thing and break down exactly how to manage it step by step. So let me ask you, is that dark space under your floor creating a hidden problem for you right now? For way more homes than you'd think, the answer is a big yes. But here's the great news. This isn't some unsolvable mystery. It's a problem with a clear, logical solution. All right, so let's start by uncovering this hidden problem. Where do we even begin? Well, the truth is, most of these issues boil down to just a few core sources of dampness. Our first step is just to figure out what they are.
So you're probably wondering, where's all this water even coming from? Well, it's actually not as complicated or mysterious as it seems. It really boils down to three, and only three, main culprits.
Yep, that's it. Just three. If you can get a handle on these three things, you've basically solved the whole puzzle. So let's break them down one by one. Okay, here they are. First, you've got bulk water getting in from the outside. Second, there's the moisture that's constantly evaporating up from the ground. And third, you have the humidity that's just in the air itself. We're going to start with that first one because, and this is super important, the order you do this in matters a lot.
And right here, this is where so many people get it backwards. They jump straight to working on the inside of the crawl space, but the real solution, step one, actually starts outside your house. And trust me, if you skip this step, everything else you do is pretty much a waste of time.
I love this quote because it gets right to the point. You've got to stop the actual liquid water from pouring in before you can even think about dealing with the moisture in the air, the humidity. They are two totally separate battles, and you have to fight them in the right order. So what are we talking about when we say bulk water? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about rainwater, snowmelt, surface water, all of it, pooling up against your foundation and eventually finding a way to seep or even flood right inside. Okay, here's your homework. Go outside and do a quick check. Look at your downspouts. Are they dumping water right next to the foundation? Check out the grading. Does the ground slope towards your house instead of away from it? And for goodness sakes, look at your gutters. Are they clogged? Getting these things right isn't just a suggestion, it is your absolute non-negotiable first step. Okay, so once you've won the battle against bulk water from the outside, now we can move inside. It's time to tackle source number 2, that sneaky moisture that is constantly coming up from the earth itself. You can look at the dirt floor in your crawl space and think, hey, it looks bone dry. But don't be fooled. That soil is always breathing, constantly releasing invisible water vapor into the air. Think of it like a slow-motion fire hydrant that never, ever turns off. So how do we fight this? The main weapon in our arsenal is something called a vapor barrier. It's basically a really tough, thick plastic sheet that you cover the entire dirt floor with. Its whole job is to stop that water vapor in its tracks before it can get into the air. Now, it's really important to understand what a vapor barrier does and what it doesn't do. It's not magic. It doesn't make the moisture just vanish. What it does is reduce it, like way, way down, so that the next steps we're going to talk about, the ones for handling the air, actually have a fighting chance to work. All right, quick recap. We've stopped the water from getting in from the outside. We put a lid on the moisture coming up from the ground. Now we get to the part that trips everybody up, the air. And honestly, this is where so much of the common wisdom you hear is just flat out wrong. And that brings us to the big question, the great debate, right? Should those crawl space vents be open or closed? For years, people have said, oh, you got to keep them open, let it air out. But is that really the right move, or could it be making the problem even worse? The answer? Closed. Yep, you heard me. In pretty much any modern, smart approach to this, the answer is to close those vents up. Why? Because leaving them open is like leaving your front door wide open and hoping for the best. It's an uncontrolled invitation for problems. I mean, just think about it for a second. It's a sticky, humid summer day. Are you going to throw open all your windows and turn off the AC to dry out your house? No way. It's the exact same logic for your crawl space. Opening those vents on a humid day is just pumping your crawl space full of wet, soupy air. Okay, so if we can't just leave the vents open all the time, how do we know when the outside air is actually helpful? Well, we can't go by relative humidity. That number is, well, it's misleading.
It changes with the temperature. The real number you need to know is the dew point. The dew point tells you the straight truth, the actual absolute amount of moisture in the air, period.
And this right here, this is the golden rule of ventilation. You only bring in outside air when its dew point is lower than the dew point of the air that's already in your crawl space. That's it. That's the rule. It's the only way you know for sure that you're drying things out, not making them wetter.
So, when you put all this together, right, you stop the outside water, you block the ground moisture, and you start intelligently managing the air, what you end up with isn't just a bunch of random fixes. You've built a complete, coordinated, smart system that works for you all year long.
And what does that system look like in practice? Well, you've got your vapor barrier installed, your old vents are sealed up tight. You have smart sensors measuring the temperature and dew point both inside and out. Then you have controlled fans that only turn on when the outside air is actually drier. And for those peak summer months when the air is always wet, that's when a good dehumidifier automatically kicks in to do the heavy lifting.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Look, the goal here isn't to create some impossible, bone-dry desert under your house. That's not realistic. The goal is to manage the moisture, to control it and keep it at a safe, healthy level that protects your home and the air you breathe. So I'll leave you with this question. Is the health of your home's foundation being left up to chance, just reacting to whatever the weather throws at it? Or is it being protected by a smart, coordinated strategy?